What's up, everybody? I think we're live.
Yeah.
Let's refresh the page.
Yep.
Welcome to today's daily Q&A. It is Friday, the 28th of January, and that means that this is the last day of our first 4-week, 28-day Kickstart program. This is going to be my last day of training on the 28-day Kickstart program personally. And boy, has it been a journey. I've done a hybrid version of the program because I actually started injured. I did probably the worst muscle tear I've done in the last decade, right at the end of last year, and tore my hamstring and adductor on my left leg. And I came into this challenge only 3 weeks, I think 3 or 4 weeks of recovery on an injury that really needs 6 to 8 weeks of recovery. And so I had to start really gradually, which was probably good because I hadn't trained to like a high intensity for quite some time. And so what that meant was that I regressed to weights on all of my lifts. That meant that I was lifting sub-maximal. If I could do, I started doing 8 to 10 repetitions, and let's say on a squat, if I could do 120 kilos for 8 to 10 repetitions, I started on about 80 kilos. I actually started on about 70 kilos. I could feel it in my hamstring, but it wasn't like really intense discomfort or pain. And I gauged whether the weight selection was right by how I felt the following day. Now, I also started training 3 days a week lifting. And over the 28-day period, so for the first week, I did 3 workouts. Then the second week, I did 4. And then I continued with 4 lifting workouts Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday each week. Broke up the week on Wednesday with a light mobility and stretching workout, flexibility workout, but I had to be very careful because stretching a torn muscle is an absolute no-no because logically, when the muscle's trying to heal together again, a stretch is just going to pull it apart, much like if you were to stretch the skin on an open wound. And so I was very, very delicate with my stretching, and I haven't been able to do flexibility training to the intensity that I would have liked to this month, but I had to manage that, and that's very, very important. So I'm finishing the month out feeling really good, but I'll be honest, it didn't go completely to plan. On my second workout, so I turned up, did my first Monday workout, and I'm doing full body composition training, which means that I'm training the whole body in every workout: squats, bench press, chin ups, split squats, deadlifts, bent over rows, overhead press, and also doing cardio every single day. And I did on Monday, my split was a barbell back squat. On Tuesday, a barbell front squat. And on the first Tuesday of the workout, my back went into really bad spasm, lower back, because of the limitation in that left hamstring. And when there's a limitation, when the body's tightening up to protect an injured area, then it puts all sorts of different stress and strain on other joints around it. And yeah, my lower back just wasn't happy with it. And believe it or not, and it was a very lightweight. I was front squatting only 70 kilos, which is well under what I can squat. Yeah, but 2 days into my big New Year's resolution training program, I got a really nasty lower back spasm, and I've carried that almost throughout the entire month. It obviously settled down after about a week, but it was definitely, there was a little bit of residual discomfort there for the majority of the month. Now, a lot of people, most people that aren't really, really passionate about and know the true value of training would probably likely have said, okay, I'm injured. I'm not going to exercise. I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm going to rest and recover. And I'm going to tell you today why that is a terrible idea. Because it's something that a lot of people get really wrong. They use the smallest little instance of an injury to you as an excuse to not exercise. And we've gone through this at length in our Sound of Movement podcast. You can go back through and listen to those episodes with Phil White. We used to call him Dr. Phil, who's our resident physiotherapist, as to why it's a really, really bad idea to not exercise during injury or when you've got some sort of a compromise. And the only two occasions where he says it's warranted to completely abstain from exercise is in the event of a bone fracture, when the bone is setting and you just need to be as still as possible and you're in a plaster cast and you're at risk of, ruining the setting of that bone. Or if you're like immediately out of post surgery from an operation, and uh, the reason for that is that there's a process that you have to follow as the tissues are healing, and you don't want to disrupt that and tear the tissues apart again because you've had surgery. But other than that, there's usually always something that you can do that's going to be better than doing nothing. And the reason for that, the simple answer is that injuries come due to a traumatic incident, a trauma that is, caused by too much or excessive load. Essentially, you've done something, you've breached your load capacity in an area of your body. You've done something that the body was not prepared enough for or ill prepared for. And a physio will call it an abusive load. It can come from one instance, which we've all, I'm sure, related to, like when me tearing my hamstring. That was a single instance where I overstretched with a load. Or it can come from multiple instances, like in the case of a tendinopathy or an overuse injury. And what happens when we abstain from exercise is that we exacerbate the weakness that was there, that was breached from the abusive load, gets worse. And then we tend to return to what we were doing in a weakened state. So we're more vulnerable after the time off for recovery. And so, and not just that, we've often, if we've had one compromised area, let's say hypothetically it's a shoulder injury, we abstain from exercise completely. And now we don't just have a weak shoulder or a vulnerable shoulder. We've made the entire body more vulnerable because we've stopped squatting, we've stopped deadlifting, we've stopped all of the upper body exercises to avoid aggravating the shoulder. I'm sure you can sort of see some relevance here in the argument. So what we always say is, how do we deal with injury? How do we work around injury? First and foremost, we change the script in our head about when you're injured. It's Phil always used to say, injuries are not when you get injured, you don't put yourself in the naughty corner. You don't put yourself in the injured corner going, okay, that's me, I'm injured, I'm out, which is usually the first thing. It often comes from frustration. I know what it's like psychologically. When you get injured, you get really frustrated. And then, the last thing you want to think about is going back into the environment that caused the injury, But unfortunately, as I've said, doing so, abstaining from exercise altogether, will only make the risk of injury greater next time you return to the gym. So what do? First and foremost, we flip the switch and we stop thinking that injury is a reason to abstain from exercise. Injuries are likely going to happen throughout your training life. And guess what? They're likely to happen to you even if you don't exercise. Quite frankly, much worse, because they come from frailty. They don't come from an abusive load. And frailty is much harder to deal with than an injury that's been caused by an abusive load in the gym or running or doing something like that. Because frailty, once you start to become injured from just general frailty in everyday life, it's extremely hard to start exercising because you don't have the momentum already. You don't have the habit built. You're not accustomed to it. So it feels pretty horrible. We can all relate to the first time we go to the gym and start lifting weights, how sore we feel. And there's a lot of emotional and psychological hurdle that needs to be climbed over to start exercising once you've been told yeah, you've got a real weak lower back. You need to strengthen it. By that time, it's often too late and too difficult to get started. So it's very, very important that you guys understand we need to flip the switch, and we need to just accept that injuries are going to happen from time to time. They are absolutely not a reason to stop exercising. If I had stopped exercising because of my lower back, likely it would have got a lot worse. Plus, I wouldn't have been strengthening that torn hamstring that's now fully healed and is a thing of the past for me. And it was just about me managing the load, and I did a few things that made sure that I was able to exercise. I used my weight belt with every workout, whereas I wouldn't probably do that usually, just to give me a bit of support and a bit of extra bracing that I could push against. I managed my range of movement in squats so that I wasn't aggravating it, and then over time I was allowed to progressively overload, going deeper and deeper and deeper until I was fully ass to grass again in my squats. I managed the intensity of the lift, so I regressed the weight that I was lifting, and that was very, very effective. And I've finished now. I'm going for my last workout in 28 days on this program today, and I feel fantastic. I've lost 5 kilos of fat. I've gained muscle. My body composition looks great. I feel good. Mentally, I feel really good. My confidence is back. So yeah, like for all of those reasons, it would have been disastrous for me to not exercise for this month because of that initial experience. And along the way, I actually experienced another injury. I injured my wrist doing hand balancing. Funny story. I figured that a drill that I do in my hand balancing, where I do inversion and I do a scissor kick against a wall, touching my toes against the wall, so I'm upside down doing it, felt really good for my back. It actually really de-stressed my back. And after maybe 3 or 4 sets of doing that for 60 seconds, I experienced no spasm in my back at all. So guess what? I started to do that every workout 4 times a week. And after 2 weeks, I blew out a wrist injury that I've had for a while. And so now I had a wrist injury. So guess what I had to do towards the end of the program? I had to start strapping my wrists because it was just not getting better, and it was causing me a lot of grief. But I didn't stop exercising. It was a little bit uncomfortable to do pull-ups, and I had to adjust the grip, and it was a little uncomfortable to do my bench press and my overhead press and my front squats. So I had to wear wrist straps, but I didn't stop exercising. And now after a few weeks of using the wrist straps, it's almost it's manageable again, and it's getting much better. But the key here is that at not one point in this last 28 days did I think to stop exercising. I didn't miss a workout. I managed load. I regressed a little bit. In some instances, I was lifting a weight that wasn't really that challenging for me, but I still got it done. I still did it. We've got a comment here from John. He said, I screwed up my bicep tendon at the beginning of the month, 50% tear. I've been training squats 4 to 5 days a week while I wanted for my PT to approve upper body movements. That's really fantastic to hear, brother. Exactly what I'm talking about. There is always something you can do. If you have a really bad upper body injury, like a bicep tear, you can switch to a German volume lower body training protocol. There's protocols where you can get away with squatting every day. Of course, you don't lift to failure, but there's all these different volume training methods where you can double down on a movement that you want to get really good at. And yeah, there's all sorts of different stuff you can do. That's one of the reasons why it's great. It's a great idea to have a coach like John's got, a personal trainer that you can bounce ideas off, and come up with something. And guess what? When you're doing a volume training on squats or deadlifts or something like that you can get away with, then you gain strength everywhere. The central nervous system is getting stronger, and that's going to carry over to your upper body movements as well. You know, you can also there's also a lot of research to indicate that if you keep doing strengthening work on the opposite joint that's not injured, you get a really good result too. So just know that the worst thing you can do possible is to stop training when you're injured. It is absolutely critical. always a good idea to get the guidance of a great sports physiotherapist who understands the concepts of exercise, who's not going to pigeonhole you as injured in the naughty corner. Go to adpt.physio if you want to work with a great sports physio who gets all of this. Work with Phil White. Yeah, guys, have a great day. Keep training, keep moving forward, no matter what. Sorry, Richie, I didn't give you a chance to even get your two
Hey,
cents in there today.
that's fine. We got plenty of other days to talk about this stuff, and it's a very hot topic. So I'll get my two cents in another time.
Awesome, guys. We got to jump in and give some love for our daily coaching call for our 28-day Kickstarters. We will see you all Monday. It's Friday here in Sydney, Australia. Have a fantastic weekend. Keep training, get out there, get some sunshine wherever you are in the world, and have a good couple of days off. Take care.
See you guys.